All right. So we're going to go live here. Okay. All right. So we're going to go live here. Okay. I have a repeating voice, though. Hold on. Let me see here what I can do about this. I have a repeating voice. Okay. There we go. All right, how's everyone feeling? It is the last week of August, and August is a really, really tricky month because when it's extremely hot, and we've got all of these portals that are open for our manifestation. And so August is the Lionsgate month, and it's the 8th month, and the sign is Infinity. And so in my energy forecast early on this month, I talked about these hard stops. And the hard stops are there for us to remember who we are, if our actions are aligned with what we say that we want, to get in touch with our dreams. And so this can be something that's really hard to understand because you're going to want to judge it as good or bad. I'm like, oh my God, it's so bad, and like, for instance, one of the things is the situation in Hawaii right now, and then also California, they had a hurricane, hard stops. And energetically, the universe doesn't know good or bad. It just knows what it needs to do to move forward. And so since this is the last week, and since Sunday, I've been really feeling it. And I meditated with my Magi's and my muses, in which I channel to get advice. And even though I know that these doors are opening, a lot of doors have to close as well. And I felt so many different rays of emotions for myself and for other people. And a lot of it I knew was other people. And so this, I hope, will help you with manifesting for the remainder of this month, and also to see the gifts. So these portals that are opening, they are really all for you. And when I was going through these waves the last 3 days now, I had to check in with the moon cycles. The moon cycles. That's why I joke around with like the title of this live is that I'm a lunatic. Are you? And so I have been utilizing the moon cycles for a long time now. I celebrate the new moon, the full moon. We do rituals around it. My daughter and I, we dance. But I truly didn't understand the moon cycles until probably about 3 years ago. And that was because of the work that I've been doing with Kate Northrup in her book, Do Less. And then she talks about how to manifest with the moon. So now I actually plan according to the moon cycles, where it's like a circle, and then my timing, and then where it is a new moon or a full moon to show up or to retreat, and then also aligning that with my personal moon cycles. And if you're a woman, this is something that you want to look into because it just makes more sense. The other way is just like the Western way, it's the patriarchal way, and it's so linear. And we don't necessarily work the best in that way, especially as a woman, and especially if you're sensitive. And so today I want to talk to you about the moon cycles, the 4 moon phases, and then how you can do your planning so that you can flow more. So after I started doing this, life was a lot more easy. It was more intuitive, and it was just more magical. And in a day, you can actually experience all 4 of the moon cycles as well. And it can really help you to know when to retreat and when to give yourself more grace. And so this is a more elaborate one. So I have to have my notes, and I'm going to also read to you the moon cycles because there's so much, and I don't want to forget it. Okay, and so uh, if you want to grab a notebook and take notes, it would probably be helpful, or you can always rewatch this as well. But before we do that, let's just do a little bit of a clearing for all of us right now with the yes technique. And so I want you just to sit back, and you can rock and close your eyes if you want to. And we're just going to do a little bit of a clearing because let's just admit it, we're all in a transitional time and it's intense. Okay, so let's put your hand on your heart and one hand on your gut. I love to rock because that helps activate my pelvic bowl, and just breathing in a little bit slower or deeper, and then breathing in deeper, and then breathing out a little bit slower. And you want to do like maybe 2 breaths in and 4 breaths out, 2 breaths in your nose, 4 breaths out of your mouth. This will help calm your nervous system down as well. So you're just going to answer yes to the questions that I ask. And then when I say thank you, you say thank you. And try to smile while you're doing it. It helps because SMILE stands for start my internal love engine. Start my internal love engine. So breathing in 2, exhaling 4. And I'm just going to remove the outer layers. So is there resistance in our bodies? Say yes, yes. Can you please remove the resistance in our bodies? Yes. Will you please remove the resistance in our bodies? Yes. Please remove the resistance in our bodies. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Are there spiritual damages in our bodies? Yes. Can you please remove the spiritual damages in our bodies? Yes. Will you please remove the spiritual damages in our bodies? Yes. Please remove the spiritual damages in our bodies. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Are there emotional damages in our bodies? Yes. Can you please remove the emotional damages in our bodies? Yes. Will you please remove the emotional damages in our bodies? Yes. Please remove the emotional damages in our bodies. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Are there physical damages in our bodies? Yes. Can you please remove the physical damages in our bodies? Yes. Will you please remove the physical damages in our bodies? Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Are there energetic damages in our bodies? Yes. Can you please remove the energetic damages in our bodies? Yes. Will you please remove the energetic damages in our bodies? Yes. Please remove the energetic damages in our bodies. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. There's another layer of others. So are there other damages in our bodies? Yes. Can you please remove the other damages in our bodies? Yes. Will you please remove the other damages in our bodies? Yes. Please remove the other damages in our bodies. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. So my intention for this is actually to slow everything down because everything's moving so fast, and for us to really see our truth and feel into our truth, and for things to clear for us, and for our actions to be aligned with what we say that we just did. And that's why I'm also in a more somber mood. I don't necessarily think it's somber, but just a more calming mood. And so this is just to help you relax into it and trust, and then also absorb the information that I'm presenting to you so that you can utilize it and implement it right away. Yeah. And so the last 4 days, like I said, have been like kind of up and down with all these emotions. And I normally do try to like remove things, hence the whole thing with me being an energy clear, right? But I actually did the opposite this time, and I stayed with it. And I used the Tonglen meditation that if I'm feeling these things, maybe others are as well. And so maybe I feel it for them. And so that there's less suffering. And I stayed with it longer, and I laughed, and I put myself in water, and I smiled, and I put essential oils on my heart. I use Young Living essential oils, as you know, and I had the intention of there to ignite my heart, to clarify my heart, to purify it. So if that's something that you need to do, grab your essential oil and put the intention of whatever it is on it and put it on your heart. And I dance and I move my body and then I really rested. And then something funny that I also do, and it's more recent, it's because I read the book Pussy by Regina. I can't remember her last name now. Mama Gina. And her book is called Pussy and how you call on your pussy power to bring everything in. And so I asked my pussy for help and to guide me and to show me the way and to talk to me. And so that also aligns with the moon cycles. Okay. And so in Ayurvedic teachings, they say that there's 3 parts to the cycle. Okay. There's creation, maintenance, and destruction. Creation, maintenance, and destruction. And I learned this from Emily Fletcher, who I did the Ziva meditation with. And she teaches us that not to judge anything as good or bad, not to judge something as good or bad, to ask, where am I in the cycles of creation, maintenance, and destruction? Where am I in the cycles of creation, maintenance, and destruction? And nature really loves creation. It's not so fond of maintenance, but humans are fond of maintenance. And then destruction. Destruction has a lot to do with like grief, things passing away, and the things ending so that we can create. And so where are you right now in the cycles of creation, maintenance, and destruction? And so the cycle here will be more dominant in certain energy waves of the year because everything repeats itself. It's a cycle. So August is a really strong month. November is a really strong month. February is a really strong one. And then May and August again. Okay. And so these are really energetic times of ups and downs. And the more you can be aware, the more you can come back. And the more that you're aware of the moon cycle that you're in, the more that you can relax. Okay. And so nothing ever goes away until you learn the lesson you're supposed to learn. Nothing goes away until you learn the lesson you're supposed to learn. And you really cannot appreciate and accept it until you surrender and receive the gifts. And I've been working on surrender so much. There's so many layers to surrendering. And to ask, what is the gift? The lesson may be the gift, and oftentimes it is. And there's also, if you're going through a hard time right now, a transitional, challenging time, there's a quote that I really love, and it is, someone once gave me a box of darkness. It took me years to realize this is a gift. So someone once gave me a box of darkness. It took me years to realize that this is the gift. So whatever your challenge is, if it seems dark, if you're going through your night of the soul, your Chion's return, then just know that this too shall pass, and that it may be the gift that you need. And so the moon phases, there's 4 phases to the moon. There's the dark moon, the waning moon, the waxing moon, and then the full moon. Okay, and so I'm actually going to read this to you, and I got this information from Tess Masters, and I'm in a program with her where she just offers great coaching. It's called Skinny 60, and it's supposed to be a get reset program, but there's so much more to that program, and where the coaching and inspiration is just phenomenal. And we had a call about the moon phases from her friend Elizabeth. And Elizabeth really expanded my knowledge of the moon. And so I'm going to read to you the moon phases and recognizing where you're at. And we're about to go into a second full moon of this month. Okay. And it's not just the second full moon, it's a second super full moon. And so when there's a super full moon, it's bigger and it seems like the moon is closer to the earth. And so it is going to be more intense. And we're already kind of like leaning into that. Okay. And so we just went through a new moon, which was last week on Wednesday. And new moons are better for manifesting dreams and desires, but it is a bit of shadow work. And so the new moon is really the dark moon phase. Okay, so here it is, the dark moon phase. There's where the moon is in complete shadow. Being in the moon, the dark of the moon doesn't necessarily mean a dark time in your life. This is necessary time to rest, reflect, and to regenerate. And this is so important to do for quality of life. This is a vital phase to ground yourself and gather resources. It is in this quieter state that you have greater access to your own wisdom and without outside distractions. What the dark of the moon invites you to do is just stop for a moment, catch your breath, rest and reset, because that is what she is doing. She's there, but she's not shining any light in this phase. She's pulling into herself and reflecting on her inner world rather than reflecting everything that is going on the outside world. We often feel like there is nothing here for us in this dark phase and interpret this place as emptiness, loneliness, a place of limbo, and not knowing, where we are static and not moving. We see the state as a negative place and a passive place that is useless, as if we were wasting time when we could be achieving something. The dark moon phase can be a very uncomfortable place to be. I want to know what the answers are and what I'm supposed to be doing. Where am I going? What should I be looking forward to? This dark moon phase, loss can be a really terrifying and uncomfortable place. But if you can stop and allow yourself to feel the discomfort and ask yourself, ask questions of yourself, you can move into a place of deeper understanding and awareness and find your true purpose. What is the next thing that is actually worthy of your effort? When you give yourself time to think, you can see the opportunity in the moment, recognize that you have choices, discover an approach that you may have missed, and realize that you do actually have resources to cope with this state and what comes next. When you are in the dark state, can you trust that you can handle whatever arises? When the moon is in her dark phase, she isn't sitting there all scared thinking, I don't know if I'm ever gonna wax again. The moon teaches us to trust that the light will come back, the way will be shown, and you will be full again, because you will not be in a state of limbo forever, because the dark moon will move into her growth phase, the waxing phase, and so will you. The moon teaches us to trust the light will come back, the way you will be shown, and you will be full again, because you will not be in a state of limbo forever, because the dark moon will move into her growth phase, the waxing phase, and so will you. Okay. So the dark moon in seasons as well is like winter. Okay, there's a lot of things happening in winter, like underneath, that is necessary. And so it is actually where you rest. And it's also like, I also have another analogy is like you're baking, you're in the oven, after you've done all this prep and stuff like that. And if you open the oven too soon, it's the thing that you're baking isn't going to rise. And it's only in that time of darkness and the heat and that things rise. And so that's really the dark moon phase. Okay? And so, yeah, this last week, I had a lot of dark moon phases in which I had to just pause and do nothing. And instead of just pushing, and there was a lot of doubt, but you have to really trust in that process. And in a day, you can actually go through all the moon phases. So like today, I've already cycled through like one moon phase, then the waxing moon phase. So this is a time for preparation. You may experience excitement and anticipation as you fill up, but it is important to note that the moon grows a little bit at a time when she's in her waxing phase. She doesn't go from dark to full overnight. There's a slow progression of a couple of weeks where she's waxing, and you see a little bit more of her each night. The waxing phase teaches us patience, and that is okay to pace ourselves and go slowly, because if we go too fast, we might miss the beauty of the moment, overlook something, not recognize a problem, and not be able to course correct if we are going in the wrong direction. If we're rushing to get to the next phase, we may not really notice our progress and what it took to get there. In this phase, the moon teaches us to appreciate the journey, the learning, and the growth. The moon doesn't judge herself thinking she is not enough yet because she is not completely full and bright, because she knows that she is on her way and that she will add a little bit more light tomorrow night, and then a little bit more light after that. And you can go and do the same thing. The moon doesn't judge herself for not being enough. So you don't have to rush your journey. The moon is not unhappy that she's taking her time. She's just doing her thing. One night she's this, and the next night she's a little bit more, and she's not judging herself or for not being completely full yet, because she knows it takes time. You don't have to rush your journey. The moon is not unhappy that she's taking her time. She's just doing her thing. One night she's this, and the next night she's a little bit more, and she's not judging herself for not being completely full yet, because she knows it takes time. So please don't judge yourself. Know that it takes time. If you rush, you miss the opportunity to see where you actually have resources and support available to you that would make your growth journey a little bit easier and more fulfilling. You can get more out of your filling up process if you allow other people in on your journey. And this process of discovery is not to be hurried. If you rush things and do things all on your own, you may get to the peak and realize it's not what you really want because you didn't take the time to prepare and investigate all of your options. The moon teaches us to enjoy the moment for all that it offers and fully absorb and integrate what we are experiencing and learning. And that is how we grow intellectually, emotionally, and spiritually. The moon shines no matter what particular phase she's in. And she's not saying, sorry, I'm not quite my full self yet. She shows up and doesn't make any apologies for what state she is in. She shows up and shines and says, I am beautiful in this moment. Where I am right now is wonderful. It is enough. The moon gives herself credit for what she already has done and accomplished. She says, look at how shiny and bright I already am. The moon teaches us to notice the beauty and opportunity in each moment of being. And she knows that she will shine more brightly tomorrow as she moves into her full moon phase. So now we're going into the full moon phase. And personally, myself, I love to be in the full moon phase because I love to be in action. I love to see the light. And I want to show the world, like, it's the bright and shininess of it all, but it's not sustainable. It's actually quite exhausting. And I think most of us love the full moon phase. And I think most of us are comfortable in the full moon phase. And then we think that if we're not shining and doing the right thing and doing things and being out there, then we're failing. Yeah. And so it's uncomfortable. Okay, so I'm going to read to you the full moon phase. This is the state when the moon is at her brightest. She is full and round and juicy, and she is shedding so much light. Modern culture teaches us that our best phase is when we are full, big, easy to see, and at our peak. And yes, in society, this state of full contentment while we are achieving is when we get a lot of attention and validation. But the full moon phase is not only about accomplishing a goal or improving ourselves in a certain way. Full can also mean we have reached a crisis point, a breakthrough, a moment of clarity about what needs to change. This is an incredible relief and contentment in that, and because of how much light the full moon shines, she can give you a lot of clarity. She can really show things for what they really are. So the full moon phase can be an aha moment. And when you finally see yourself and discover the answer, you have every right to bask in the beauty and that moment. It is natural to want to feel good and to shine your light and to want to be seen for your beauty and wisdom. However, it is easy to get attached to the feelings we experience in this bright phase, as if we need the thing that makes us to feel full to continue forever, or we will forget the feelings. When you're in your fullness, you're proud of yourself, and you can often allow these feelings to define your identity. This is who I am. I am only me when I am this full and this big and this gorgeous. And people are going to expect me to be this all the time. It is easy to embrace the idea that your identity is wrapped up in your accomplishments or your job. Do you judge your fullness as your peak and anything else is failure? If I'm not full doing this, I'm not really worthy. I'm not really worth anything. What do I have to offer? The fullness state is not sustainable. And if you try to stretch this phase out longer, then it is possible you will burst. Staying in the full phase can also create anxiety, imposter syndrome, or dissatisfaction with what you've created when you see it in its full expression. Let me read that again. Staying in the full phase can also create anxiety, imposter syndrome, or dissatisfaction with what you've created when you see it in its full expression. The moon is not attached to this full phase because she holds this lightly and with grace, because she knows that she will be empty again. And she doesn't judge this process. The moon teaches you to bask in the moment, but know that change can come and will come, and you will need to rest and top up again. The full moon is just one little spot of the wheel, and it is not the entire wheel. When you are full, you are at maximum capacity. And if you keep stuffing more and more into your fullness, you will burst. If you stay in the full moon phase and you only want to stay there, you are actually choosing to be inert. This choice may look like constant achievement. Wow, look at how big and beautiful and bright she is. She is Superwoman. But not allowing yourself to empty, retreat, and reflect is a form of inertia and does not produce any energy or movement in your life. You are stuck in one state of being. We typically only associate being stuck with a dark phase when we feel lost and we are trying to get somewhere. But you can also get stuck in needing to stay in what your culture would call your peak. Choosing to stay in the bigness and the fullness is not sustainable. It is exhausting and causes stress in your body. Your body is not built to be in this constant state of stress. Humans, particularly women, are designed to move through cycles. Moving out of the fullness, the achievement, the attention, the adoration, the feelings of being worthy and beautiful and a person of contribution and worth can feel like a negative thing, a step backwards, a loss, a failure, and something to be avoided. I've allowed myself to slip. I'm a failure. I've lost my drive and purpose. I am not worthy. I am not enough. And this is not a truth that the moon embraces. When you see releasing, slowing down, and reflecting as a negative phase, you invite unnecessary grief and suffering. Allow yourself to slow down. If you allow yourself to really be in the waning and not have as much going on, you are actually giving yourself the gift of building up resources. So that the next time you are ready to be full, you are going to be firing at all cylinders, and you're not going to be tired and depleted and unable to cope. This is the beautiful thing about the waning phase and the dark of the moon. The part of the cycle allows you to resource yourself. This state enables you to nourish yourself so that when you are full, you are strong and ready to cope with whatever comes your way. Waning moon phase. Waning, like waxing, is a slow and steady progression and gives you time to fully integrate and appreciate the fullness that we have just experienced. This time is necessary to enjoy the fruits of your labor and what we have earned so we don't forget the lessons. This phase also gives us time to gradually prepare for the next phase when we will be full again. In Western culture, we tend to view the waning phase as something bad, as a loss, as something unnatural and something to be avoided. But what the moon teaches us is that emptying is a necessary part of a healthy energetic cycle. And the moon empties gradually. She doesn't drop from completely bright one night and then dark the next, and she's still beautiful in this phase and teaches us grace in letting things go instead of constantly grieving and mourning, or perhaps beating ourselves up because something is going away. In the fullness, if the fullness has been the height of a crisis or a problem, it is common to go to a place of beating yourself up for letting the terrible thing happen or not learning the lesson sooner. How did I let this happen? But what is beautiful about the waning phase is it also allows you to integrate whatever you've been going through in the full moon phase and think about how you will apply the lessons and make different choices in the future. Or if the moon phase has been an amazing experience or accomplishment, or accomplishing a goal, this quieter time gives you time to reflect on all the work that you did to get different choices in the future. Or if the full moon phase has been an amazing experience of accomplishing a goal, this quieter time gives you time to reflect on all of the work that you did to get there and celebrate your efforts. What did I learn? How do I take this forward? How can this be useful in the future? How does this change who I am? How am I different now as a result of the full moon experience? And and it is just not possible to fully integrate experiences and lessons quickly. Taking your time and surrendering to the slowness of the waning phase is especially important if you are in a big period of transition, making big changes. If you don't take time to integrate the changes, you won't carry the lessons forward into the next phase of the dark, and you won't have truth to rest with. So let me read that again. If you don't take time to integrate the changes, you won't carry the lessons forward into the next phase, into the dark, and you won't have truth to rest with. This was a big lesson for me this last year. I really learned that I have to plan an integration time, and integration allows for grounding. Integration allows for grounding. Okay, the moon teaches us that our fullness is enough, and that we need to empty in order to make room for the next experience. The natural cycle of energy is that we have to let something in, and then we have to let something go. The moon reminds us that for her to get back to her fullness again, it has to wane. To get into her fullness again, she has to wane. This is the law of nature. So why? I'm sorry, hold on. I lost my place. And so why would you subject yourself to some different laws that says I can only be full or only be empty, that there is no process of gradually letting go to make it gentle on me? If the waning phase manifests as a period of grief, taking your time to process your emotions and experience is critical. The waning phase reminds us to be gentle with ourselves. Allowing yourself to move into the darkness for a while is necessary part of healing. Okay, that was intense. I've had my fill. Now I'm going to empty out and allow myself time to digest what I've heard on the way in order to gently move into a different place. This integration and regeneration phase is a vital step in making long-term food and lifestyle changes. What's working for you? What strategies can you incorporate moving forward? What choices have you made and why? So you may experience multiple phases in one day. You may be in a different phase of darkness, waxing, fullness, and waning in different parts of your life, personal, professional, etc. And you can also move through different phases within a quick 10-minute period as you're processing something. And you may beat yourself up about the process. So why am I spinning all my wheels with this? Why can't I settle? The moon teaches us that this process of movement is normal and natural. And this is actually a form of being present and acknowledging the moment that you are in and just being okay with that. Every phase is necessary, powerful, and beautiful. The moon spends the same amount of time in each phase. The moon spends the same amount of time in each phase. All of these phases are always in existence, and every single one is perfectly valid, powerful, and beautiful. If you are not in a fullness phase, it does not mean that you are in less than. The moon teaches us that time is not linear. Western culture often teaches us that we are only acceptable when we are in the fullness phase at our biggest and brightest, because cultural norms don't typically value the circular rhythms of waxing and waning and being in the dark, even though those states are what actually feeds the fullness and leads to the fullness. You can be full without the other three phases, but we only value the full phase. And so we are taught that big and bright and beautiful and shiny is the only legitimate place to be. The moon teaches us that all phases are equal and beautiful and necessary. So she teaches us that this too shall pass. Nothing is going to stay. This too shall pass. Nothing is going to stay. This helps us to be present. This helps us to be still. This helps us to appreciate the beauty. The reality is really comforting. particularly when you find yourself in a painful and confronting place. The moon models giving yourself permission to be in the process because she gives herself permission. She doesn't need anybody else to give her permission. She doesn't need anyone else to give her permission. So I'm asking that you give yourself permission right now. So she doesn't need anyone else to give her permission. She does not, she does what she does. She's there showing up in whatever phase she is and saying, look how gorgeous I am, no matter what phase I'm in. It is really important that you honor your natural cycles, not only the cycles in the physical body, but your emotional cycles, your psychological cycles. The moon teaches us that everything has to move because that's how you create energy. If things stop, they become stagnant and die. Movement has to be taking place for there to be life, for there to be creation, and for there to be energy. The big part of Native American culture is understanding how the rhythms of nature create life. So if you get stuck in any of your fullness or only your darkness, then you are not allowing energy to flow. The dark and the light are not opposites. Western culture also teaches us that the dark and the light are in opposition. And this idea creates a dualistic way of thinking that invites a black or white mentality that invites judgment. You're either full or you're empty. The moon is the same size with the same worth, whether she is in the dark phase or in the full phase. And so are you. So I'm going to repeat that again. The moon is in the same size with the same worth, whether she is in the dark phase or the full phase. And so are you. The moon teaches that there are no opposites, only complementary phases. You cannot have one phase without the other. You cannot have one phase without the other. So here are some questions that may help you. All right. So how do you relate to cycles in general? How comfortable are you with changing rhythms and phases and waxing and waning? Do you rush and miss things? Can you slow down? Do you dismiss or run away from the dark phases or the waning phases? Can you accept in the heart that constant change is actually necessary to generate life-giving energy of yourself and others? What makes it difficult for you to cope with change? Can you trust that you will always get what you need? Can you believe that you will always have enough? Can you trust that you have many opportunities to grow full and to shine brightly? Can you believe that you are not going to run out of time or lose your chance? That is the Western way of thinking. Can you have one shot at, that is the Western way of thinking, that you only have one shot, and if you blow it, then that's it. You're a failure. You will have so many opportunities to become full and to shine. Can you relax into that and allow yourself to absorb that? I'm going to have a lot of chances, and I don't need to push. So say that to yourself. I'm going to have a lot of chances, and I don't need to push. So can you trust yourself to be discerning about what you choose to fill with and what you choose to let go of? I'm sorry, that was like kind of choppy. Working with Instagram and YouTube live here, and I have this light sensitivity with my eyes that's just ridiculous. And so being on the computer screen for a long time just makes it all blurry. But I want you to really just relax now and trust into that. Whatever phase that you're going through, just look at that and just know that this too shall pass. And if you're waxing or waning, if you're full, or if you need to sit with the darkness, remember, in the darkness, you can see the stars. In the darkness, you can see the stars. So I'm just going to close this up now and have you kind of just do an inquiry for yourself with some of those questions. And I'm going to have this in a newsletter. And so if you're on my email list, then you'll receive it and then you can read it, because I know that some people are better at reading than actually listening. And so maybe that will help you kind of just reconnect this and anchor this all and utilize this tool to do your scheduling so that you plan around the full moon and new moon, or like give yourself grace with time, and that it's all going to be enough, that you have enough, and that you have enough time and space. So let's just close this up, because we want to close up the gates and also remind ourselves who we are. And so I'm just going to do that with the secret swords technique. So your swords, two hands like this, and you're going to align it here. And then you're going to remind yourself of who you are by just maybe stating your name. I am Tweedon. And then I like to say, I am Tui Dam, Mother of Isabella Grace. And then just choose the vibrations that you want to be. I'm clear, confident, compassionate, and loving. I'm a miracle magnet. Everything's always working out for me. I'm the luckiest person in love and life. So then you flip it, you spin it 3 to 9 times slowly. This is a Shen technique taught to me by Grandmaster David Harris. This is just changing the grids, realigning yourself, and then you're going to pull down, give it a little squeeze, and release it into the ethers. All right. So I would love your feedback. Share this if you feel so called, and I hope that you use the moon phases to manifest whatever is that your heart desires. So may you be free, may you find peace, and may you have grace and courage.